Hello everyone, come join me on my little journey trying to modify a combo amp that I had for a bit. Here I am trying to make a little quick connect cable for the speaker to plug into the actual amp. Here I have a speaker cable. I'm actually using an instrument cable. I know it's not intended to be used for speakers, but this is a little combo amp, so it doesn't seem like there's much of a loss or a gain if I were to use a speaker cable. And I just had a regular instrument cable lying around that didn't work anymore, so I ended up splitting that in half and then creating two little quick connect cables. So here I am with the basic tools. I have my soldering iron, I have a wire stripper, and I also have the helping hands. I have a little piece of cardboard to prevent any burning on my desk. And you can see on the very left side, it's a little container with the little quick connect tabs. I actually decided to use the spade tabs because those are usually the most common used when it comes to quick connect cables for combo amps. Here you'll see me using a little razor, somewhat of a razor, trying to cut into the actual plastic, the outside plastic of the cable itself. The reason I'm doing that is to get to the grounding cable and to get to the hot cable itself. And it's a very thick piece that's covering the outside to protect it. So I need to use a little razor. And fast forward here, I'm actually soldering and tinning the wires before I put in the quick connect spades. And after that, I'll be soldering them both together. Now this cable I actually ended up scrapping and making a new one, but I just wanted to show the basic materials that I had, and just how the first time it didn't go well, but I ended up making a second cable, and then I ended up fixing this cable after the whole project. So again, here you see me with my tools. I made sure to have a little fan just for basic ventilation, and prevent me from smoking in toxic fumes. But yeah, so far it seems here that I have gotten to the portion where usually you crimp the cable to the actual spade connector, but because I don't have an actual crimp, I decided just to solder it on there, like just straight on. And I actually ended up connecting the shrink tubings. So there you see me with the hot glue gun. I'm just making sure to get close, but not super close. But I think here I was a little bit impatient, I won't lie. But everything ended up shrinking and protecting enough of the exposed wire. So it should be good so far. And here I am just making sure that the wires are properly separated, and there's still enough room for me to get both sides of the cable, the hot wire and the ground wire, to the actual speaker terminals. As mentioned prior, I'm using the other half of the cable. Here you see me with the 90-degree cable jack, and here I am properly connecting the spade connectors to the actual wires. I decided to scrap the other cable that I was making because I didn't like the way it came out. Being my first time soldering in a while, the connections didn't seem to hold on that well, and in the end I didn't think it was gonna last for long-term use. Here I am showing you the end result of the cable. Everything came out pretty decent. Everything was properly soldered, properly tinned, and here I am with a Sharpie labeling the hot wire and the ground wire. You don't necessarily have to do this. You can actually tell which is the ground and which is the hot. The hot wire is going to stick out immediately because you have a little piece of plastic tubing that's still in the middle, and that'll stick straight out, whereas the ground wire will be the one on the very side. So here I am trying to connect everything, but I came into a problem here. The amp is directly below or directly above the speaker, and the I believe the little transistor is actually right next to the output jack, or where the output jack would be, and pretty close to the speaker terminals. So what I decided to do here is instead of trying to kind of like move the speaker to the side and have to cut out a portion of the wood, I just decided to move it 9 degrees to the left, and that gave me plenty of room to stick a cable, an actual speaker cable in there if I ever wanted to use the combo as just an amp head. And it still gives me the chance to plug in the speaker cable itself with the quick connect system. Here I am disassembling the amp itself. As you can see here, I'm trying to take apart the handle, and the handle actually has both screws that secure the amp itself to the cabinet. So here I am using a flathead screwdriver and just shimming the sides off first. And if you ever want to do this with your amp, make sure that when you're shimming the plastic off, continue to do so until there's a big enough gap, because there's actually the plastic itself and the metal clamps you see right there, they're actually very close together, and I made a mistake and accidentally bent the metal the first time I tried to take it off, and realized that they're pretty damn close together. So just be mindful of that, and just to not bend the clamps itself. You can still, you know, hit them back in place, but you don't want to damage the amp or anything about it either. I'm trying to keep it as the same as possible, same working condition. Here I am removing the rest of the screws. As I was pointing to earlier, there's 2 screws on the very back of the amp itself, and those are 2 like little security screws, and all those 4 screws are what are holding the amp itself to the cabinet. And here I am trying to take out the cabinet. I won't lie, it was a little bit difficult. I could have made it a lot more easier for myself to take off the plastic corner protectors, and the amp would have slid straight out, no problem. In this part, I am trying to solder on the output jack to the output of the board. And here you can't really see me, but I'm actually trying to take off a piece of plastic and some hot glue that's holding on the wires from the output portion of the board directly soldered to the speaker itself. So I decided to just clip off the wires itself from both ends and break off the piece of plastic, because there was no other way for me to take it off. I'm sure there's a better way, but I just ended up just breaking it off. Here I am taking off the knobs and leftover screws. Be mindful that there is one screw that's I believe either above or next to the transistor, and it's covered in thermal paste. Just be mindful of that screw, not to mess around with the thermal paste too much, and not to strip out that screw, because it's a very small screw. Now here I am moving the board itself to give myself a better angle to desolder the clipped wires and then resolder the new longer wires for the output. And here I'm just moving it around still, but at some point I will start soldering on the wires. And I want to mention, if you have this like copper cloth looking thing for soldering, that worked perfectly here. It's just to soak up any of the hot solder and not get it on the rest of the board itself. So me being still a beginner soldering person, I wanted to make sure that the surface of the board itself was clean and no connections are like still jumping onto each other. Otherwise the output isn't going to work as intended. So just be mindful of that. Keep the surface clean. Try not to connect anything that's not supposed to be connected together, pretty much. Here I am with the longer portion of the wire that I clipped off and soldering them together. Now this is the end result. The wires are resoldered onto the actual output of the board and to the jack itself, and everything looks pretty clean, at least to me, at least for a beginner. And you can't really see the cavity, but the portion where the plastic was holding the wires together, I will be connecting the output jack to that hole again. So as you can see, the output jack is pretty close to the the transformer, I believe. And it's going to be directly to the speaker. So just be mindful of whether you'll be using a 90 degree speaker jack to either use the stock speaker or to connect to your individual cabinet. You know, I'm sure someone would love to plug this into a 2x12 or a 4x12, what have you. So here I am, just screwing everything back together, making sure not to move the thermal paste too much, and connecting the rest of the screws and putting the knobs back on. Again, be slow with this. Don't ship anything out, and just take your time. Alright, here I am with the end result. I'm just showing the connections, just double checking that my wires are properly connected by doing a quick tug test. And with the Sharpie, I am writing down the minimum impedance load for the output, which should be 4 ohms. I'm just basing that off of the stock speaker it came with, which said it handled 4 ohms and 25 watts, so I wrote that down. Be mindful of all the screws, all your connections, and yeah. So eventually I will be putting the amp itself into the enclosure it came with, and be mindful of the 2 big screws, your metal clamps, the plastic coverings that cover the metal clamps, and the 2 back screws. There should be 4 screws in total, and just be mindful of that. And after this, I'll be giving a quick playing demo. The first will be using the stock speaker, and then after is my Randall 4x12. Fair warning, it may be loud for some users, so if you have headphones, please lower them. And I hope you enjoy. Thank you for watching.